Happy Autism Awareness Month. I'm going to start today by doing a video about general autism. A lot of you sent me questions and stuff on YouTube and Instagram on my story, and I will be doing a Q&A at some point. But today I'm just going to do a video for Autism Awareness Month. So just a couple of decades ago and before that, we used to see autistic people like myself, and if you're watching and you're autistic like yourself, be put away in asylums and mental institutions, and basically we were forgotten about. We were treated as insane. We were treated like we were basically just nothing, and it's really heartbreaking to see how life was for people like us, and for people like us who also had learning difficulties as well. I remember watching a documentary called Children of Darkness, and I mean, even the name obviously is just, it's horrible. It's really horrible, and I will never forget that documentary. I cried and cried and cried, and even the people that were filming it, I don't think they seemed to understand how unethical the treatment of these people with autism was. You know, it just seemed to be the norm, and it's so scary to think that was just, I think that was in the 80s, so like 40 years ago that was. But the asylums didn't officially close till the early 2000s, so it was still going on up until that point. And I mean, we have progressed since then. You know, there are no more asylums as we knew them before anyway. There's still mental hospitals, but that's a different thing, I think. But I'm talking about the big old Victorian hospitals, and you know, how grim all that was. You know, we're kind of past that now. But just a few years ago, somebody with any neurological differences got bullied, they were isolated, they were shamed for it. You know, the treatment of people like us and other people like us with different neurological conditions, they were treated as just, you know, a laughingstock, like at schools and stuff like that. You know, other kids had no issue in bullying those kids, and teachers didn't give them a fair chance. And that was just a few years ago. So aside from that, at the same time, I remember NHS services in the UK being actually a lot better than they are now for some reason, despite the stigma. And before I was diagnosed with autism, I was seeing a few people at one point for depression and anxiety, but there wasn't a very long waiting list, and everybody I talked to seemed to have the same treatment. You know, they had support, they found somebody to talk to, they found like counselling, and you know, this was before IAPT and emotional well-being and all that shit. It was a lot better. And still then, when I was in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, there was a massive stigma towards not just autistic people, but people with depression and anxiety and very common mental illnesses. You know, I'm not saying that autism is a mental illness, it's not. It's a lifelong neurological condition. But I'm just saying, as a comparison, you know, if you were depressed or anxious, people would be suspicious of that. People would question that. People would say, you know, you're attention seeking, it can't be that bad, your life's fine, get over it, get on with it. You know, there was still that kind of shittiness towards people who were suffering and needed help. So people think autism as an insult, I've seen quite a lot on the internet and stuff. You know, people will throw the word autism about. I've seen it in YouTube video comments under music videos and stuff like that. You know, people having a go at each other for no reason, and they're calling each other autistic or you have autism as if that's an insult. You know, it's still seen as a very negative thing, and we need to address that. We need to shake that off. Sorry, I've got an itch. You know, it can't continue, because autism is not an insult. Autism is not even a disability, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of things about it that I feel personally are quite disabling sometimes and quite debilitating, and I do feel like I'm held back a bit by my condition. Well, not my condition, how society and other people treat people like me with this condition. But yeah, it's still seen as a very negative and scary thing. You know, people seem to be scared of it, and people seem to hone in on the fact that there are negative aspects of it, or challenging aspects of it, should we say. And that's wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. It's 2020. Let's get over it, you know? So actually there's a lot of people with autism in history that completely contradict that. Einstein, Isaac Newton, George Orwell, H.G. Wells, Beethoven, Mozart, Hans Christian Andersen and Immanuel Kant were all thought to have autism or be on the autism spectrum. I'm sure I read somewhere Leonardo da Vinci was thought to have it as well. I mean, these are people with big brains, you know, great thinkers, great writers, great philosophers, great composers, great artists, and yet autistic people are still seen as stupid and worthless, and like, you know, they can't do anything in life. It's crazy. And recently, you know, in recent history, Bill Gates has Asperger's. A lot of actors like Dan Aykroyd, Woody Allen, even though I'm not a fan of Woody Allen because of what he's done. Who else? The guy from Hannibal. What's his name? Anthony Hopkins, that's it. Sorry. There's so, even Courtney Love is thought to have it. Tim Burton, the director, Stanley Kubrick is thought to have it. You know, all these people, these very, very clever, intelligent, creative people, these brilliant, unique minds, are thought to have or have autism. So doesn't that tell you something? You know, we have a lot of very, very successful people that have contributed a lot to our society, and still we as a community are still given this negative label. So a lot of people look at autism as a disease, and I see a lot of things about vaccines. Autism is caused by vaccines. It's not. Autism starts at birth. It begins in birth. A lot of it is thought to be genetic, and there's a lot of studies that you can find online that confirm this. It is not caused by vaccines. And, you know, we're still seeing, particularly in America, facilities that practice ABA, which is applied behavioural therapy, applied behavioural analysis, sorry, which is, again, completely unethical. And just, you know, why do we need to change autistic people? Why do we need to change our traits to be more normal, to fit in more, to be more accepted amongst society, to make it easier for all the neurotypical people around us? Why should we have to change? You know? If we are born with this unique, this different ability, not a disability, why should we have to, you know, just change all that and be normal? There's plenty of normal people out there. There's plenty of them. You know, if you don't like us, go and talk to the normal people. It's as simple as that. But the world would be very, very, very boring if we didn't have neurodiversity. Very boring. You know, autistic people can think outside the box. They see things and the world completely differently in a lot of aspects. You know, a lot of us see things very visually. A lot of us are very good with numbers. A lot of us are very good with words. And, you know, when we're able to concentrate on something that we're really interested in and that we know a lot about, we can deliver fantastic results. And we've made some life-changing discoveries and scientific discoveries. Sorry, my mind is going a bit funny today because I did a 14-hour shift yesterday and it was very, very stressful. So I apologise if I seem a bit slow. But yeah, they don't seem to accept, people don't seem to accept that autistic people are people. We are our own people. We have a lot of unique qualities. We have a lot to bring to the table. We have a lot to offer. We're very passionate about the things we care about. We're loyal. We're honest. We're creative. And a lot of us are very intelligent as well. People still see autism as an illness, as something we need to change, as behaviour we need to correct, as traits we need to get rid of. And they don't see the people, they don't see us. So here I am, I'm Anna Moomin and I'm autistic. Happy Autism Awareness Month.